Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Dave's Podcast along with a new video. I want to say thank you so much for viewing and watching and getting into all the content I've been putting out so far. Be sure to like Patreon and watch Patreon or listen on Spotify, however you guys would like to do it. Like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching and viewing. I truly appreciate it. So we are going to do something a little different this time. Because as I've said, I wanted to talk about different topics, and lately I've been talking about music and albums, and artists, astrology as well, and even possibly music videos. There are more reactions I can talk about. But today, I wanted to talk about a movie. We can talk about movies. So let's talk about one of my favorite movies, and that is Poetic Justice. So this movie came out in '93. Let's just get into it. Poetic Justice is a 1993 American romantic drama film written and directed by John Singleton. Rest in peace. And starring Janet Jackson and Tupac Shakur, rest in peace, and Regina King and Joe Torre in supporting roles. Poetic Justice follows Justice Jackson, a poet mourning the loss of her boyfriend from gun violence, who goes on a road trip from South Central LA to Oakland on a mail truck along with her friend King and a postal worker, Shakur, who she initially cannot stand but soon helps Justice deal with her depression. So that's one thing at this particular time in the 90s where women are really needing to be respected. And even in this day and time in 2024, depression is real. So, if you're not feeling okay, there's hotlines, there's people to call. You can be able to talk and let's get it together. I don't want no one on this earth feeling like they are not happy or not feeling like they are alone. You got to talk to someone. And I'm glad that in a black film that was showed and sensitized, because in a lot of movies in this time and even back in the day, it was more or less women just being disrespected and just having a sense that, oh, you ain't gonna, and it's like, no, there'll be times women do be going through some things just as much as men. And I feel like in this movie it was a depiction of both, which I was glad to understand at a young age, because you don't always see a male be sensitive in a sense of a loss or just in the sense of life, period. It's always, fuck this, I'm gonna go work, I'm gonna da-da-da-da-da. But with a female, even when that's a similar energy, they do break down. And it's just not often in this type of movie where it's with the men too. So, following the success of his debut film, Boys in the Hood, Singleton wanted to make a film that would give a voice to young African American women. See? Jada Pinkett, Lisa Bonet, Monica Calhoun, and many other popular actresses auditioned for the role of Justice, though Singleton knew from the script's draft that the role was solely intended for Janet Jackson. Filming took place from April 11th to July 4th, 1992. So there were other actresses that were going to be Justice, and John Singleton just knew, nah, this is Janet. This is Janet. And he was right. I think the icing on the cake on the fact of it being Janet was the fact that she could sing. So there's a sense that not even just the mystery of realizing throughout the movie that Janet's really just being herself throughout most of it. But you just get to hear like sentiments of what's to come with her Janet album, like Janet period. So this is just me being a fan and standing out, but it just made sense. It made sense. Poetic Justice was released in the United States on July 23rd, 1993. The film received mixed reviews from critics who criticized the screenplay, though praised Jackson and Shakira's performance and chemistry. So they received mixed reviews because they were feeling like the way the screenplay and everything was just kind of mapping out throughout the movie. It's like, where does this make sense? Where does this make sense? But then it's like, no, like they're acting. Stop. It reached number one in the box office its opening weekend, grossing $11 million, almost $12 million. It eventually grossed a total of $27.5 million. Okay? Jackson received Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations for Best Original Song for Again, which also reached number one on the Hot 100. The film has developed a cult following, especially for the chemistry between Jackson and Shakur. So, after the movie was released, people felt like, what, maybe Janet and Tupac were, they felt like they were connected. They felt like by the end of the movie, it's like, maybe this is cute, and at the time, you're kind of saying to yourself, it's cute when you think that, she's not married, she's kind of married here. Her husband is in the movie, and then with him, Tupac, he may have been talking to someone or somebody, and he was young, she was young, they were in their 20s. But she was in her late 20s. See, he was in his early 20s, so it was different as far as, age. So, yeah. The plot, I don't want to really give away the movie. If anything, I know the movie. I'd rather more or less talk about the production. We already kind of talked about the release here. But yeah, let's talk about just the plot of the movie, because Jackson. I wasn't gonna really talk about the plot because I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give the movie away. But you know what? Let's. Okay. Justice is a young African American woman living in South Central Los Angeles, named by her late mother, who gave birth to her while attending law school. After the fatal shooting of her boyfriend, Markel, Justice becomes deeply depressed, spending most of her time with her cat named White Boy in the house that she inherited from her grandmother, who and only going out to her job at a local hair salon. A talented poet, Justice reads many of her poems in real life written by Maya Angelou throughout the film, both to other characters and in voiceover. So there was a sense of Black femininity that was being transpired and needed to be seen and being able to be acknowledged here, because why not? While she is working at the salon one day, a young postal clerk named Lucky arrives and begins flirting with her. She and her female boss, Jessie, rebuff his advances, pretending to be lesbians and mocking Lucky with their relationship. And I remember that. I remember that. It's not even so much that she didn't have gum or nothing. It's just that she just wanted to get him out of that. And I think for me, in that moment, it was just like, girl, he talking to me, and I don't want to be underneath no man right now. Can you get him out of here? And you my boss too. It ain't like he not attractive. I'm just not feeling it. And that's another thing. There's people out there that need to know restraint is real. You don't have to do anything with anybody if you don't need to. It's not necessary. You can always love yourself. Okay? Lucky has also suffered tragedy in his life. And this is what I mean by saying, you know, the femininity when it comes to men, like that need to be looked at from a sense too. His main focus is caring for his young daughter, Keisha, whom he had to forcibly remove from the care of her crack addicted mother, named Angel, who was using drugs and having sex with her drug dealer while leaving the child unattended in their apartment. Lucky dreams of a professional career in music and shows considerable promise, but insists that his cousin is the true talent. And I honestly recently had a look back on just certain dynamics in movies where you kind of say to yourself, whoa, there'd be women that just be bad as men, and there'd be men that be just as bad as women. It's how you deal your cards, I guess, pretty much, because there's just no need for anyone to be bad at anybody for whatever who they love. Justice's friend, Aisha, manages to talk Justice. She manages to talk Justice into taking a road trip to Oakland with Aisha's boyfriend, Chicago, Lucky's co-worker at the post office. Okay? Justice warily accepts, mainly because she has to go to Oakland for a hair show and her car had stopped working at the last minute. And that's another thing too. Like back in the day, you know, you wanted to be at the repair shop, you know, the you wanted to be there because you just never know what can happen with your car. So you want to make sure if you're making long trips or doing certain things, there's enough oil, brakes, and all that is good to go. Unbeknownst to Justice, Lucky is also on the trip, and she will now be sharing a postal van with him with their two mutual friends. Initially, they argue, but they soften towards each other as they gradually discover their similarities. The quartet makes a couple of detours. The first is a family reunion barbecue they see signs for on the road where it becomes apparent. Although there were ample hints earlier that Aisha and Chicago's relationship is troubled. So in the midst of the fact that, you know, Justice is home and just trying to just understand, like, you know, maybe I could have talked with that guy, but then no, I don't need to talk to that guy. I'm going through it. And then you have Lucky. You know, that girl was cute, but she did me kind of weird. And then she ain't no better than my damn baby mama. Okay, so it's just they kind of got connected in the sense of just like I lost as opposed to I'm trying to get away from. And then with Aisha and Chicago, of course, they're not compatible. But that's what kind of brings the movie in a bit more because their mutual friends weren't compatible, they became compatible. And they started out not being compatible as opposed to becoming compatible because they didn't really know each other and didn't realize, wow, like, you have a kid. You could have just said that in the beginning. Sorry. Let me get back. Aisha openly flirts with another man at the barbecue, while Chicago broods watching her behavior. Aisha and Chicago argue in the mail truck until Justice talks to Aisha about her behavior with alcohol. Aisha throws up and tearfully apologizes to her. So, because their relationship was so troubled, you know, some people, and it's something when you see it from Regina King, because, you know, she's funny, but she's so, she's a legend, okay? When you see it from like Regina King being like, all right, so what you doing? You know, I'm not here with nobody right now. I'm worried about you. It's like, well, wait a minute. What's going? Wait, you was just in the back with that man sleeping. Yeah, y'all was just sleeping before they argued. Like, what happened? Yeah. So Chicago's not feeling that. Of course, Justice and Lucky were not really, you know, they weren't like, they were trying to get to know each other, but they were still kind of having their differences. Like, all right, so maybe I can take you seriously, maybe I can't, but I don't know right now. And at the next stop, a carnival, Lucky and Justice grow closer while discussing their lives, because in the midst of Aisha apologizing, they kind of go to the beach, and she's talking with Justice, and Justice is kind of staring at Lucky, and she's like, oh, okay, you ain't as depressed now. You kind of met somebody that got all that frustration out of you. What's going on? And she's like, I don't get down like that. And it's not even whether she do. It's just the fact that, not to say that there's a trauma bond, but there's definitely a sense of where it's just like, ooh, I kind of got into it with somebody that I may have to possibly think that maybe they probably got some things going on too. Maybe I'm not the only one here going through some things. Yeah. After leaving the carnival, they stop at a beach where each of the four contemplates their separate situations, in internal monologues. Yeah. So, in the movie, I don't know why they have it here where it's showing that at the carnival, they're talking more as opposed to the beach, because it was the beach scene, then it was the carnival. But yeah, like they started to talk more at the carnival, and Chicago tends to feel away because Aisha and him are not still getting along in some way, and it's hot. And afterward, the friction between Chicago and Aisha explodes when Aisha informs Chicago that she has been seeing someone on the side, and he physically attacks her. I don't agree with that. I love me Regina King, and she played that role down. But I thoroughly agree with when you're done, you're done. If you don't want someone no more, no matter how much it hurts them, you got to let them know. Because this was a norm back in the day. Oh, well, it's okay because I was already with somebody else any damn way. And it's just like, back then it was a norm. It was like, oh, you know what? Oh, you want to hurt my pride? It's okay, because maybe I could be with somebody else, or maybe I already was with somebody else. And it's like, in 2024 now, it's kind of disgusting. Not even kind of, it is. It's disgusting. It's gross. I don't think you should really be seeing other people if you are with somebody else. And if you feel like that person is not for you, just don't be with them anymore. And then if you realize that the somebody else that you was going to be with is not who you want to be with, and you realize the person you was with maybe could have been who you wanted to be with, why even go through that? It's just, I personally think that they were running their course in the storyline. But as far as on a general sense, like just whether it's gay, straight, whatever couple you're in, if you feel as though you love someone, be with them. Do not take them for granted. Just be with them. If there are extracurricular activities that y'all want to get into, it is nobody's business but yours. But if you feel as though you want to do things without that person, and you just arguing left and right and just acting a fucking fool, you just as guilty as just making sure you actually did the shit. So with that being said, just stop. Just leave. If you're that much of a coward, if you're that much of a person that is just not attainable or can't be tamed, then just go. Because it ain't about diseases, honey. It's about class. It's about making sure that when you ain't, being led astray, you can get to where you want to be. That's how I see it. Ain't nobody got time to be just underneath anybody. No. But in this storyline and at that time, oh yes, it was going on in the 90s, and then even in the 2000s, like people were just doing that like it was just casual. Like, oh yeah, well, you know what? As much as we've been together for maybe some 8 months or 9 months or maybe a couple years, I have been seeing somebody else when we argued. And it's like, what? Really? Ew. Because when you, and the only reason why, and I guess that's why people aren't dating as much now, because they're waking up. It's like 9 times out of 10, whoever you're going to be with has been with your mutual friend. If we're all the way real, the world ain't that big. It big, but when you kind of see the same people over time, it ain't that big. And it's a shame when you kind of realize, like, oh, you was with that person, I know that person, and wait, they had you. Anyway, yes, he attacks her, like punched her, and luckily initially decides to abstain until Justice defends Aisha by kicking Chicago in the groin, who retaliates by attacking her. Okay, so now he's attacking 2 women. Now she's looking crazy. Lucky knocks Chicago out, and he, Justice, and a bleeding and shaken Aisha leave him behind and continue on their journey. So that's another thing too. You don't want to, even though it's a movie and it's fictional, and maybe not even be fictional, because there's some events that could possibly have been real life in some cases for other people. But long story short, like, you don't want to be with somebody that you didn't even realize, like, you're an abuser too. She didn't realize till damn near she just said, listen, I'm done. And I might as well tell you I've been done for a while, that she realized, like, he was an abuser. And Joe Torre played that role well, because but the thing is just, that's the things that people don't dissect or really look into somebody, which is why I said, and will still say, it's gross. It don't gotta be gross of it being physical where they've been with somebody else. It's gross where you don't even realize a whole nother entity of somebody else could be just as damaging or more damaging, because you just said, oh, well, you know what, this is just too much, and you don't even know who you're being with. And then of course, you're just kind of just closing your eyes with a blindfold doing it, because you're kind of saying to yourself, like, wow, is this what I need to be doing? And unfortunately, it's not always in the fairy tale movies where it's like, yes, this was what you needed to do. Now everything's going to be magical and you're going to have the best life ever. It don't always work like that. If anything, it's the other way around. It's usually a waste of time. That was a waste of time. There was no need to do it at all. Of course, I just want to make sure on a general sense, and even just when it comes to just the movie, it's just, there was a lot that you kind of say to yourself, like, that's a red flag, that's a red flag, that's a red flag. But like I said in the beginning of the video and in the episode, Lucky and Justice get very much closer over time. Lucky stops the postal van at a beach, and Justice goes to see what's wrong. She begins opening up to him about her life, and Lucky becomes sympathetic. They share a kiss, and Justice walks away, apparently unsure of her feelings for Lucky. She goes back to him, and they kiss again. When the Now trio arrive to Oakland, they receive news that Lucky's cousin, with whom he had been working on recording music with, had been killed. Blaming himself for not being in Oakland sooner and believing he could have prevented the shooting if he had been in town, Lucky angrily blames Justice for distracting him while they were on the road. Jesse advises Justice and Aisha about men before the hair show. Lucky's uncle and aunt give him his cousin's recording equipment. Lucky decides to give up work and take care of Keisha. So I didn't even know that he said the hell with the mail job. I didn't even know he just said the hell with it. But then again, I did see that when he said, oh, I don't know if you'll see me again. So yeah, he pretty much alluded the fact that he's quitting. But yeah, there was a scene in the midst of the movie where pretty much, he's like, don't touch me. If I hadn't wasted my goddamn time, this never would have happened. Instead of fucking with you. And that was the right message, wrong person. That could have been Chicago. You know what I mean? it's just, again, eh, so much, so much happened in such little time, because it all that happened in literally one day, damn near. Um, Months later, Lucky meets up with Justice again back at her hair salon. At the hair salon, bringing Keisha, remorseful over his conduct in Oakland and his cruel words towards Justice there. He apologizes. She smiles at him coyly and they passionately kiss. She then turns her attention to Keisha, fussing over her hair. Justice and Lucky's eyes meet over Keisha's head and they smile, as strongly connected as ever. So, I just pretty much told you guys the movie. It wasn't truly completely intentional, but I wanted to give background of the movie because why not? But yeah, as far as the production of the movie, um, you know, yeah, John Singleton spoke with Essence, discussed the 20th anniversary of the film. The interview mentioned that in 1993, black female leads were rare, and he wanted to give a voice for young African American women. He also revealed whose idea it was for Jackson to wear the now iconic box braids. That was a collaboration between myself, Janet, dance choreographer Fatima Robinson, and dancer named Josie Harris. Josie had the braids in Michael Jackson's Remember the Time video. I brought her and Fatima and a couple of other dancers over to hang out with Janet, and they all became friends. I said, why don't we try and do Janet's hair like Josie's hair? We got the hairstyle from Harlem and just put it in a West Coast movie. But yes, it received mostly negative reviews, with most critics comparing it unfavorably to Singleton's debut of Boys in the Hood. Okay, so you know what? And then, there's Cinema Score gave the film a grade B plus on a scale of A to F. Yeah, no, there was just some people that were at the time, and I'm not reading all these critics. I'm not reading it all. I'm not even gonna. No, you already got two, y'all. As far as just the sense of, Janet did win a MTV Movie Award for Best Female Performance and Most Desirable Female, okay? But, yeah, like, when it came to movies, a lot of times people didn't always take the fact that the movie is its own thing. They kind of just would compare and, all right, well, maybe, he was trying to target this side of what he already did from this. And it's like, just look at the movie. But yes, the soundtrack, they had a soundtrack, which was released June 29th, 1993. And yeah, the movie came out literally a month after. But the soundtrack itself, let me just look at it real quick. Yep, they had Get It Up with TLC, Call Me a Mac with Usher when he was literally about to emerge, Stevie Wonder, Never Dreamed You'd Leave in Summer. Now that's a passionate song, child. And then Tupac had a song, Definition of a Thug Nigga. Are you still down? That was, it didn't appear on an album until his 97 album from after he passed, which is something because I feel like maybe people liked that song and they wasn't sure if it wasn't just going to be on the soundtrack. And that happened a lot where people had songs on soundtracks and it's like, this song, like, is it going to be on an album too? And I think record labels at that time should have considered that, because you just never know. You never know that a song on a soundtrack could also be a song that could be a part of a parent album. And they had to learn quick because people was understanding it. But yeah. It took me a minute to really understand the aspect of the movie because I was just so in tune with everyone that was in it at the time. But it's a great movie. I bought it, and yeah, definitely check it out. And I will be talking about more movies, and we will be definitely having more to come in the next weeks to come. I will make sure of it. I thank you so much for watching and viewing, and I'll be back with more.